Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, hi, my name is Wangari. I'm currently a sophomore at Harvard University, and welcome to the complete university college application guide for international students. If you're new here, this is a guide and a series of playlists where I'm going in depth into aspects of the college application to give you guys the tips, tricks, strategies, information, and resources to successfully and strategically navigate the US college application as an international student. I went through the process. I could barely find any information tailored to international students, so I hope through these videos I can be helpful to you guys and a resource as you go through the applications yourselves. So let's get into the video. So let's talk about letters of recommendation. You've heard about them, you know about them, you might be dreading them. Let's go into what they are, who writes them, how do you submit them, how do they even get to the colleges, what should be in them, and all those good things. So what are letters of recommendation? These are letters typically written by your high school teachers, guidance counselors, and or mentors that highlight a student's strength, achievements, and strategies, telling the college why they should accept this student. So it's essentially your teacher quite literally recommending you to a college and being like, this student is really good, I recommend them, accept them. You know, who should write your letters of recommendation? Your high school teachers should write your letters of recommendation. You can also have some by your mentors, your coaches, maybe your music and art and theater coordinators or directors, but most generally it's your high school teachers. They must be in high school, typically teachers who taught you towards the end of your high school career, so your final year or your second last year. Also, you must have one by your guidance counselor or school counselor or whatever the equivalent is in your school. If you don't have a counselor, don't worry, usi panic, I got you. Just ask any teacher who liked you or any teacher who was like a mentor to you, or you can ask your principal or your vice principal to write for you a letter. With regards to the specific teachers, it varies. So most schools will ask you for either one letter and even up to 4 letters. Usually it's easiest and it's more, usually to be safe, you should have about 3 letters. One by your guidance counselor or the equivalent, one by a teacher who teaches you a science or math, one by a humanities teacher or languages or arts or music or theater or drama and all those things. Also, it depends on the major you're intending to apply for. So if you're intending to apply for a STEM major like engineering or maths or technology or whatever, have a teacher in engineering or maths or science to recommend you. If you're applying for biology major, have your biology teacher write one for you. If you're applying to a humanity, ask a humanities teacher. If you're applying for an art major, ask your art teacher, music teacher. A teacher in your intended field of your degree holds more weight than a random other teacher. So if you're applying to be an engineering major, your physics teacher will probably have more weight as a recommender than your English teacher, you see. So ask a teacher who their field of study aligns with your intended field of study. How do I choose which teacher to ask? So usually I say ask a teacher who liked you. So what I did is I asked teachers who liked me rather than asking teachers whose classes I got A's in. I mean, I got A's in all the classes, so yeah, no. Okay, so most people will tend to ask the teacher who they got an A in their class, and that's good. But if you got an A and the teacher didn't really know you, or the teacher doesn't really isn't a good writer or didn't know you outside the classroom, it's better to ask a teacher who was your English teacher and also was your poetry club patron. That way they'll not only recommend you inside the classroom, they can also recommend the activities you did outside the classroom and paint a clearer and a better picture of you. So I usually say ask the teacher who was your friend, ask the teacher who actually knew who you were, because that way they'll be able to write a more personal letter. Also ask a teacher who taught you for multiple years, and that's why I said that ask for a teacher who taught you in your last year or your second last year, because that way they're more likely to have taught you for multiple years. So if a teacher taught you for like 3 years or more, 2 years, they know you better, as a person and as a student, and their letter will be better than a teacher who just taught you for like a semester or a term or a year. Should I get letters from other people aside from teachers? If possible, yes. If not possible, no. I didn't have any extra letters and I was completely fine. If you played basketball and your basketball coach is willing to write for you a letter, go ahead. If you worked in a research lab and your research mentor is able to write for your paper a letter, go ahead. If you had a job and your employer is able to write for your letter, go ahead. However, beware that just because you have an additional letter doesn't mean the letter is going to be stronger in your application. Like maybe you won the basketball team, but your coach didn't really know you, maybe because y'all didn't really use, maybe he wasn't there all the time or she wasn't there all the time. So don't get a letter just because you think it's going to look better in your application, because it probably won't, and it might actually have a detrimental effect to your application. So if you can get an additional recommender who is good, who is actually good and actually knows you in a personal way and can list your character traits and values and all those good things, then yes, go ahead. Why are letters of recommendation important? Letters of recommendation are important because I always say this: it's one thing for you to say you're hardworking, it's something else for a teacher to say you're hardworking. This is a person who doesn't know you outside of school, or didn't know you before you came to this school, and so they have a different perspective on your character, on your values, on your morals, and they can give a second-hand account, and it can reinforce what you said in your application. So if you said you are a good basketball player, that's good and that's fine. But if your coach or your teacher is able to say this student portrayed leadership abilities by leading the basketball team, that way they've reinforced what you said in your application, and your admissions officer will, I don't know, take it more seriously, or actually be like, oh, okay, like for real, they were in basketball. Another thing is they help put a person behind the profile, and they help to round out your application. So you have your grades, you have your scores, you have your ranks, you have your GPA. That's good, and those are cold hard facts, and the likelihood that someone else has the same cold hard facts as you is very, very likely, considering there are thousands and thousands of people applying for the very few slots. But a teacher recommendation is helpful because it gives you a personality, it gives your facts a personality. Also, it can help you get off the wait list. If they have like 10 students and they have only one slot, and all of you have the same grades, you do the same clubs, your essays are like okay, and they're all on the same level, and you have a better recommendation, or yours is more like is better, this teacher is raving about you, they think you're such a good student, they think you're such a good leader, they think you're so hardworking and you're so ambitious and you're so courageous and you're so eloquent, and the admissions officer will be like, okay, let's take this student because, you know, their teacher thinks highly of them, and so there must be a reason for this, and it can help you get off the wait list and, you know, get into the accepted list. So who will submit your letters of recommendation and how will they be submitted? It is not you who will submit your letters of recommendation. It is your teachers and your guidance counselor who will submit their letters of recommendation. They have their own side of Common App. So you have your Common App and they have their side where they can choose to submit their letters electronically. Again, please ask your teachers to make sure the letters are on a letterhead, officially the official school letterhead, signed and stamped by them. So they can submit one letter, a scan of it, and then it will go to all the schools. Or if they choose to mail it, and if you ask to mail, if you and your teacher agree on the mailing option, then you have to make multiple copies of the same letter, sign and stamp each copy, and then mail them to the school physically. Of course, the electronic option is easier. However, I understand from personal experience that not all teachers want to do the electronic side, and they don't want to deal with the electronic digital technology things, and you can mail them. So why is your guidance counselor important, and why do they need to submit a letter? So each teacher will have a place called an evaluation where they evaluate you as a student. For example, they'll ask like, how many years did you teach this student? Which subject did you teach them? How did they rank in the subject? How would they rank in the total students you've ever taught? How do you think this student reacts to setbacks? Do you think this student is a leader, and what capabilities have they shown as a leader? How is this student in terms of helping others? How is this student in terms of teamwork? And this teacher will evaluate you, giving you a score. Like literally, they'll be like 1 horrible, 5 beautiful, extraordinary. So all the teachers that will recommend you do that. Your guidance counselor will have to do something additional where they'll have to submit a report. So your guidance counselor has an additional report that they'll have to fill in, and they will be the ones to submit your transcript. So your teachers are submitting an evaluation and a recommendation only. Your guidance counselor is submitting an evaluation, a report, your transcript, and the recommendation. So that's why I was saying, when you're choosing a counselor, if you don't have one, choose one who actually liked you and would be willing to help you navigate this process, because it's quite a bit of work on their end. Of course, ask them early, give them time to do all these things, because you want them to have time to write you a good letter and not just like a slapdash, quick, easy, boring letter. Give them time, ask them for letters, ask them as soon as possible. Reach out to your teacher, get a contact, and ask them to write for your letter. So how will your teacher know that you want a letter? And I think this is a piece of information I've never shared before. I don't know why, somehow. So on your Common App profile, there will be a place to invite your teachers. So before you invite them, I always advise, call your teacher, get their phone number, call them, get their email them, message them, tell them, hi sir, hi madam, I'm applying to colleges in the US and I would really like your help to write for me an evaluation and a recommendation letter. And then once they say yes, you can invite them via Common App. So there'll be a place where you put in their name, you put in their email, and I think you put in their contact, and then you invite them, and then they will get the invite in their email, and they'll be able to open that invite and access their side of Common App. So your Common App and their Common App side will be linked because you invited them, they got the invite, they opened it, and then they're recommending you. Sawa. So you'll invite them via Common App. That's if you're going to do it electronically. If you're going to do it via mail, I think you still invite them, but then now you'll just like mail physical copies of the letters. When should I ask for my letters of recommendation? As early as possible. Now, yesterday. In fact, you should have asked yesterday. Ask your teachers as early as possible. It is June, it's July at the moment, I think. Is it June or July? Whatever. Ask your teachers as early as possible, latest by August. By August, you should have asked your teachers. You should have gotten a yes or a no from them. If you got a no, ask another teacher. Don't stop. Ask minimum of 3 teachers to recommend you. You need to ask them early so that they can write them and so that they can submit them. Systems will jam in December. You don't want to be in a situation where you're late and you've missed the deadlines. So ask as early as possible. So if you're choosing to mail the documents, how will you actually mail them? You'll use a mail. They're called carrier, like DHL, FedEx, Posta, whichever you pick. It's according to your pocket because DHL is quite expensive. FedEx is a bit cheaper. I don't know if G4S does to the States. I don't know if Posta sends to the States. It's all depending on your pocket because you'll have to pay mailing fees. How can I make sure my letters of recommendation are actually good? That is a very, very important concern. You want your letters of recommendation to be good. You want this teacher to be saying good things about you. You want them to be giving examples of when you did these good things. You want them to be actually recommending you and not just saying she's hardworking, she's ambitious, she's courageous. No. We want a good letter. We want this teacher to be actually like, yes, she's amazing, you should accept her. Okay, not in those words, but like, you get what I mean, yeah? So this is very important. What you can do is write a resume. Write a list of all the things you want your teacher to highlight in the letter. If it's my physics teacher, for example, and I got an A in KCSE and I got A's and B's in their class, I will say that I will write a resume where I say, okay, sir, these are the things I would like you to highlight in your recommendation. How I got an A in KCSE, how I was a stellar student in your class, I got A's and B's, how I participated in a physics competition and won a silver place medal, how I participated in multiple science competitions throughout the country, how I have an interest in engineering because of this and this and this, how I was a member of the STEM club in my school. So that way you tell your teacher what to write. Of course, don't put in lies, because if it's a lie, your teacher won't write the lie and you'll get in trouble with your teacher. You get what I'm saying? Just put in things that you want them to highlight. That way they'll be able to write a good letter for you. So what is FERPA? I don't know how to pronounce it. FERPA. FERPA, and should you waive it? If you've seen a Common App profile before, there's going to be a place for FERPA rights and whatever. So FERPA is essentially a law, a US law that regulates the privacy of student education records, including but not limited to your college application and all attached components. So it's a law protecting the privacy of your documents. So signing a FERPA waiver means that if you request for your college records at a later date, you will not be given access to your teacher recommendations. So my advice is sign your FERPA, waive it Waiving it means that in the future you won't have access to your recommendations. Signing it shows that you have confidence in your teachers, and it gives the admissions people confidence in that what has been said is actually true. I actually don't know if people signed or don't sign their FERPA. I signed away mine, and from my research on the internet, most people sign away their FERPA, right? They waive them, and it just shows confidence in your teacher and in what they're saying. So I don't know if not signing has adverse effects, but my suggestion is just to sign it. If you want to read more about FERPA, I'll put links in the description. It's actually a really complex law. I don't understand legalese, so I didn't even try to just understand it. I was just like, okay, so if I sign it, it's good. Cool, signed. So finally, what happens if your teachers don't speak English? That's fine. Ask them to write for you a letter in their native tongue, and then get maybe an English teacher to translate it for you. And so when you submit, you'll submit both copies. You'll submit the Kiswahili copy, and then you'll submit the English copy. Check your school website. Some schools will ask you to just submit the Kiswahili copy, and then I guess they'll translate there. Some schools ask you to submit an English copy, so you'll say that this was translated by an English teacher but was written by my science teacher in Kiswahili. Check the website again. Some schools will ask for different things, and they'll put in different regulations and stuff for different languages. But it's completely fine. If you can get a teacher who speaks English and teaches that subject, that's perfect. If you can't, just ask your teacher to write in the native language, and then get another teacher or like a secretary to translate for you, and then mention somewhere in the letter that this was translated by another person. And something else a couple of people have asked for me, it's like, how do I ask for a recommendation? Like, do I just go and be like, hi, recommendation? So be respectful, be courteous. These teachers are going out of their way to write for you these recommendations. They don't have to. It's not in their paycheck requirements. They are still going to get a paycheck if they don't write for your recommendation. So be courteous. What I did is I got the phone numbers of my teachers, and I called them, and I was like, hi sir, this is Sandra. Please, I'm applying to US colleges and I need recommendations. Please, would you write me one? I'll give you a resume that you can use to make the main points. You just need to put it on a letterhead, stamp, and then give it to me, and then we can meet on a random date of your choosing, and I can take you through how to submit it. And that's what I did. Just be very kind, be very courteous, and be very respectful, and ask them in advance. Don't ask them on December 29th and the deadline is December 31st. Please give them ample time to write, because they do. And of course, you want to get the letterhead, and you want to get it stamped, and you want it to look good and not rushed. That was a very long video. I have gone into a lot of information, and I hope this video was helpful in navigating the whole teacher recommendation stuff. I will have an article linked down below to my website, theafricanstudent.com, where I've gone even deeper into recommendation letters, and I have more tips, and I have more resources, and I have more links for you. So check that out on my website. The links are always in the description box. My DMs, as usual, are always open. My social media will be somewhere on the screen. Feel free to message me if you have a question. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this was helpful. I will see you guys in next week's video. Thank you so much for watching. Okay, thanks, bye.